Good morning. It's good to be here. What a week. Today we are talking about a life of grace and whatever that means, right? Grace has a weird ring to it. A lot of times we want it to happen to us, but it's difficult to give to others. And writing about this or learning more about it this week, during a snowstorm with my kids home from school, man, it was difficult. It's hard to find a quiet spot. So God taught me a lot about patience and grace during this time as well. Ephesians 5 says this: imitate God, therefore, in everything you do, because you are his dear children. Live a life filled with love, following the example of Christ. He loved us and offered himself as a sacrifice for us, a pleasing aroma to God. I grew up in a Christian household. I was fortunate for that. I went to church almost every Sunday night, and when youth group came along, I was there too. I had, though, just like anyone else, no idea of really who I was or who I wanted to be, though, in the future. But I had the same desires as everyone else. I wanted to be happy. I wanted to be financially safe. And of course, I wanted to have fun as often as possible. I wanted to be entertained. The problem I ran into, though, was I had no idea how to get any of that for the future. A little bit more about me. I think a lot of people at that time would think I was a Christian. I would call myself a Christian, but I didn't really follow Christ. I walked in the steps of other people. I listened and I learned and I practiced, but I really didn't submit to Jesus until I was 18. I had to make some tough decisions, many of us do at some point in life, where Jesus we are given a choice. Like, what are we going to do with our life? You've probably asked yourself that numerous times yourself. What am I going to do with my life? And I had to choose at that time what I wanted to do with my life, who I wanted to be for the rest of my life. And it was then that I chose that Jesus would be the king of my life. I would have him the king of my life. I would submit to him. And if you know me, it is difficult doing that. I don't like to submit. I want to be in control of my life at all times and all ways. I want to know what's going to happen. I want to be ahead of the game all along the way. The thing is, with God, if I submit to him, I have to relinquish that control, right? So that was really difficult for me to do. But there's something strange that happened when I submitted. My life was transformed. Now, it wasn't something bright and flashy, but it was something that happened on the inside, a peace that came over me from that moment. Now, I failed numerous times along the way with patience and in this walk of life. And I screwed up sometimes in spectacular ways. But it was the start of an adventure that I would not change today. Jesus changed my life. Who he is who I want to be. And what feels like a slow process has been a journey that I will not regret. I want to be like Jesus. And I found that by deciding and declaring who I want to be, who we want to be, we change the course of our lives forever. We change the course of our lives by declaring and deciding that. And it sure has done mine. So the question that we have to ask, though, every single day is this: who do you want to be? Who do you want to be? I have two kids, so you get to know a little bit about me. Two kids, Ezra and Adeline. Ezra is my oldest. He's 6 years old in kindergarten. And man, there's just so much that is going on there in his life. When he was born, though, I thought I had an idea of what patience was. I thought I was pretty good with it. But when he was born, I learned I had none of that. Like, you need patience, and you need it in abundance. There's so much. If you're a parent or you are a teacher, you understand this. You need patience. And I was missing it. I was missing that. I thought I had patience, but as soon as he was born, it's like I was tested at every turn, and it felt like I failed every single time. It was overwhelming. I was drowning in this. But I mean, as we all do, we kind of learn as we go. God graciously kind of picked me up out of my slump, or brought people along that helped me along this journey. And I exaggerate because, of course, I got it right sometimes, but it was difficult. Patience is difficult. I would find myself just giving in to things just to kind of get my way. Really, like I need some time to myself, or just let me do it, Ezra. Just let me do it. Some of these would be like helping him finish answers, or trying to rush him through one of those long stories, or teaching him to do anything. I don't know if you have a kid, but if you teach a toddler or a small child anything, it takes like 20 times longer than you would imagine. So, man, like we were teaching him how to just cook something basic. And just kind of starting that process. And man, like you could preheat the oven and burn the house down before you actually get the meal ready for the oven. It takes a long time. You need patience. Even with teaching him the alphabet, he practices that regularly, and he goes through it. He goes A. Ba, 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 B. I know at this point, there's 26 letters here. This is going to be a long time. So he gets to D and da, 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 and it's starting to stutter with it. I forget. Da, da, da. D, Ezra, it's D. Let's move along here. I don't have the patience. It is really difficult to have patience with kids. But patience appears to, in every situation, help to move along everything more quickly, which doesn't make sense to me. The more patience we have, it seems to actually help everyone in all situations. It just seems to help. God excels at patience, though. Jesus is the one we are supposed to live up to impersonate. So we are, of course, called to be more like him, which means being patient too. A favorite verse that helps me to prepare for patience is reminding myself of James 1:19. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. Memorizing that verse, it caused a reaction when I get an emotional or in a bitter stewing situation. That verse just pops up in my head, and it's the first thing I think about. Now, I don't always follow it, but it is my accountability. I believe without a doubt that following Jesus, being more and more like him, including patience, transforms us into our best selves. Without God's grace of sending Jesus to die for us, we would be inconceivably worse off. Jesus' grace changed everything, and Jesus' grace in us transforms others as well. I start off talking about patience because I believe that patience is the precursor to grace. If we cannot be patient, it is difficult to give grace. If we are too busy, in a hurry, or not willing to listen, it is hard to give godly grace. Grace is what I have to live out, what we have to live out, because Jesus set that example for us to follow. Grace is so many things and is needed to follow Jesus. So what is grace? Biblically speaking, grace is a generous favor. A generous favor. So we're going to play this out with my parenting, okay? Grace is loving my kids by disciplining them the best way I know how when they do something wrong, because I know that bad habits help no one, only leading to more hurt later. Grace is also, though, continuing to learn better ways to discipline them that may be more beneficial, in speaking with them about why they did what they did. And grace is stepping into their shoes and seeing these kids know so little of the world and just want to enjoy life. Now, I was talking about my kids there, but we could almost put anyone's name there. That is grace. That is grace. I could put myself in this situation. We all know so little of the world. We all make so many mistakes. We all are trying to learn. We all need to grow. Grace is me trusting Jesus and taking off the burden of guilt and shame from failing numerous times at parenting, at marriage, at trying to be a friend or being selfless or just trying to make the world a better place, and choosing to grow and try again, improving along the way. Grace is love. The two work together and are never apart. But grace isn't just for my kids. It's not just for my wife or my close friends or the people I like or myself. Our story today comes from the Sermon on the Mount. This sermon is just chock full of great wisdom that it's almost difficult to actually hold on to because there's just so much there, and it's very convicting because we can't really live up to all these things that Jesus is trying to tell us to be. But here we go. Jesus teaching from the mountainside, and one of the many things he teaches on is on grace and love. And this is a passage of that. You have heard that it is said, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. But I tell you, do not resist an evil person. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to them the other cheek also. And if anyone wants to sue you and take your shirt, hand over your coat as well. If anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with them 2 miles. Give to the one who asks, and do not turn away from the one who wants to borrow from you. You have heard that it was said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be children of your Father in heaven. He causes his sun to rise on the evil and the good, and sends his rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. If you love those who love you, what reward will you get? Are not even the tax collectors doing that? And if you are only greet only people you know, what are you doing more than others? Do not even the pagans, people who believe different, do that. Be perfect, therefore, as your heavenly Father is perfect. That's a tall standing order, right? There's a lot there. And hard to hear because that grace, it sounds nice, but in practical circumstances, it's like, that's a little bit much, right? There's a lot there. But Jesus is not just giving us rules or laws to follow. Rather, Jesus is imparting wisdom from God, inviting us in faith, in our faith, to reorient our lives and values from an external need for perfection to an internal desire to listen to him and follow Jesus. God said it, so I want to do it. I trust God, so therefore I will do because he knows best. Now, sometimes it's still kind of confusing. So here's another way I like to look at it. God is perfect, right? God is the creator of all things, space, time, life, just to name a few, right? It's kind of a big deal. And in my 31 years of life, I know it all. I understand. I can predict what my kids are going to do next. I really can. Ezra is impressed every time. How do you know I was going to grab that? I know. I did that. I can predict. I know them pretty well. I also know the process of trial and error, of making mistakes, of temptation, of fear, of desire. I know so much about the world and can find about anything I want to or anything I want to learn on the internet, right? And even though I know all this, even though I've lived a long life, I should know everything. I still know so very little. I still fail and know little. So I often think of God as Father and me still as a kid, right? I as a kid, might still want to get as quickly as across the road as quickly as possible, getting to my goal, right? I want to get there as quickly as I can. It doesn't matter what else is going on, but my Father knows best. He knows I need to look both ways. I need to be patient. He knows what's best. I may want to play with this cool thing that is fire, like anyone, because it's awesome. And but he knows that it is dangerous and I don't fully understand it. God knows what's best, right? He knows what's best. He is a good father, but much like a good father also, he doesn't just have these rules to hold me back. He wants to excel me forward. He wants me to enjoy life as well. And he knows that these steps will help me to do that as best I can. And he also, being a good father, wants me to be my best. He wants me to be the best me. He wants what's best for me. He is patient with me. His grace is that of a gift, one that I can accept or deny, still purchased, but my choice to accept or refuse. And yet those hands are still outstretched towards me with that gift of eternal life and grace that changes us. So one thing I don't want us to do, though, is confuse patience or God's gift of grace, though, with an opportunity for us to take it easy. The love of God is not an excuse for us to be lazy. Love does. Love does. Love is an action. We need to get in the game, listen and do, fail and get back up, try and try again. There is a time to rest, and God even commanded us to rest, but rest and then do. And some of us just stay in the rest area. We're tired. But rest and do. There's something that happens with the do. There's something that happens with grace as well. But let's jump into some examples from the Word. Our man Paul wrote a large portion of the New Testament. Now, this man Paul, he was a persecutor of Jesus' followers. Okay? He had many arrested, numerous arrested. This man Saul, that was his name at one point, met Jesus in a bright light on the road to Damascus, and his life was changed forever, reaching countless people. He became a Jesus follower himself and changed people's lives to follow Jesus themselves, and impacted our lives as well. If Jesus didn't have grace on Paul, where would we be? It's an incredible thought to think about. Jesus doesn't just give grace on those who do change, but he also gave grace to those who would continue to hurt and who chose continuous selfishness. One of those guys in Matthew 26, Jesus eats with Judas, knowing he spent time with this man. He spent playing. He was his disciple, and yet he knew he was going to betray him, yet he still did. He still imparted grace, even though he knew it was going to backfire. He knew that his life would still be changed. And all for a few silver coins. In John 21, we hear Peter deny knowing Jesus 3 times as Jesus was imprisoned and on trial. And one of Jesus' most loyal and close followers denies him. And then after his death, Jesus graciously calls Peter from his fishing boat, and he forgives him 3 times. But Jesus was compassionate and gracious and didn't stop there. He didn't just forgive him. He sent him on a mission. Go, and I want you to lead my people. Going to call Peter to lead his followers. In Luke 23, a criminal on the cross is next to Jesus. He begins to confess to Jesus that I deserve this. I did what I did, and I deserve to be here, but you don't deserve this. And I want you to remember me when you go. And Jesus compassionately tells this man, this man was fine. He was right. By the law, this man was ready to be executed. And he compassionately tells this man that he would be with him in paradise. That very day, Jesus lived out love and grace. Grace was a part of his core being. He turned how everyone saw Scripture and life upside down. You more than likely remember the church phrase, "What would Jesus do?" Right? Now, when I think of that, my brain maybe just thinks differently. I like to think of, what comes to mind is, what if Jesus didn't? What if Jesus didn't listen to the woman at the well and offer her redemption? What if Jesus didn't forgive and send Peter to lead his people, leaving Peter a fisherman, leaving him where he was at? What if Jesus didn't die on the cross for our sins? What if Jesus didn't heal the lepers, cast out demons, call others to follow him? But Jesus did. His grace changed everything. Where society said, we are obeying the law, that is enough. Jesus came and said, living out grace, saying, no, that is not enough. Go above and beyond. Grace is a lifestyle. There isn't just a time and place for it. It is an everyday occurrence, everyday practice. Justice for Jesus' followers doesn't look the same. When we are wronged, when we are hurt, when someone doesn't agree with our point of view, that is an opportunity for love. It doesn't just change the other person when we give grace, it changes us. That is an opportunity to give grace. When someone is driving slow, when your coworker is not working the way you think they should, when someone doesn't agree with your political view or your personal views, that is an opportunity for grace. And absolutely, set boundaries. There's no need to let yourself be abused by someone else who physically or emotionally. Even Jesus slipped away when they were plotting to kill him. Even Jesus rested when he was tired. Even Jesus took time to pray. Godly grace has the power to transform situations into unthinkable outcomes. But how do we get to a lifestyle of grace, though? We like things now, today. And if you're like me, I like Amazon 2-day shipping. And if it's not here in 2 days, come on. I'm still growing there, though. I got to grow in patience. We like things today. It just is not that easy, though. But here are 3 ways to get started on this journey. Now, this isn't just for someone new to grace. This is for all of us. Because a lot of times we just start coasting or going along with emotions or just stop because we of our hurt or pain. But remember, rest and then do. Rest and then do. Pray is number 1. Pray and pray often. Grow with prayer. Find wisdom with prayer. Confess with prayer. Ask for help with prayer. Thank God with prayer. If you're not praying, you're already hindering yourself. Prayer is step 1 in everything you do. You want this to be a lifestyle of prayer. Prayers don't have to be long, just talk with God. One of my favorite ways to have a conversation with God is in the car. I don't know if you're like me, but I like to be alone in the car, especially on long drives or something. I can just kind of duke it out with God sometimes. He can take it. That's the beauty of it. Like, God hears my frustrations and my hurt, and then he convicts me, and I apologize and ask for forgiveness, and he puts things into perspective. But I also share my joy. I also share my thankfulness in those moments. And you can too. You can too. Prayer is an opportunity. Prayer is an opportunity. Make plans, though, for prayer as well. Make plans for it. It needs to be a part of our lives. It needs to be a part of everything we do. But also with prayer, I want you to know, like, if you don't know how to pray, or you are one of those people, I let other people pray. I'm going to say don't, okay? You deserve the peace and wisdom that comes from prayer as well. Don't let us hog your Jesus, okay? Jesus is for all of us, and there's power in prayer. But Jesus did give us an example to follow. He says this in Matthew. Pray like this: Our Father in heaven, may your name be kept holy. May your kingdom come soon, as on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today the food we need, and forgive us our sins as we have forgiven those who sin against us. And don't let us yield to temptation, but rescue us from the evil one. You grow in grace and love with prayer. Be connected to the one who knows best. Number 2, plan. Now, my wife, Alexis, and I decided to choose to fight well our first year of marriage. I don't know about you, but in marriage, 2 lives are intersecting. You're usually different. And in that collision, there is going to be a fight that ensues, right? And with us, in this melding of lives, we had conflict. And when we had conflict, we decided to handle it differently. I would be the one who likes to, after the fight, I would walk away and try to forget about it and not bring it up, and then it's done. But in reality, if I was being honest, that bitterness still was there, and it would come up and flare up in the next argument that would come up. Alexis, being her, she would want to know that I loved her and wanted to know that, hey, we need to talk about this now. I need to let you know what I'm thinking immediately. But when those two lives converged, that did not work out. It was like a chemical reaction that caused an explosion that kept us both hurt. So we decided to make a plan on how to fight well. Now, the point is that we came up with a plan on how to deal with a difficult situation. But for the more curious ones, our plan was to call it when the fight sprung. And we would say that after 30 minutes or an hour, we would actually come back together and have a conversation. That gave me time to actually think about what emotion or what I needed to actually say, because it was, especially in fights, it can be difficult to have the right words. And for her, she would actually be able to think about the words that she's going to say, not just saying the first thing that comes to mind, which wasn't always healthy, right? So what happened is we went through with this, and life was incredibly better. We never had a bad fight after that. No, we fought, but it was so much better because we had a plan. We had a plan, and because of that plan, it made our lives incredibly better. Now, we failed numerous times, and it had to be adjusted or revisited numerous times over our 10 years together. But it still continues to grow today because we made a plan. Now, I, being me, still choose denial every once in a while and forgo that plan altogether. You might be with me here. We know what to do, what is right, but we still choose the wrong. We still choose the wrong. I then would have to ask for forgiveness either later that night or the next day, or Alexis, and she has grown so well in this, would approach me and, knowing me, would guide me to make the right decision. And she did so very well. But make a plan that is filled with grace and love for both parties involved, for situations, confrontations, temptations, and for that one person that likes to poke your buttons. If you don't make a plan, you will be scrambling and you will let your emotions take control. So instead, have a plan for those situations. And when something new happens, make a plan for that for the next time. Yeah, you might have failed. You might have fallen flat on your face, but let's make a plan and do better next time. If the plan ends up not working, pivot and adjust for the future. You grow in grace and love by making plans to what you will do in difficult situations. And 3, surround yourself with high-quality people. People you looked up to for their values and strengths and experience. Social psychology tells us that we often conform to our social circles, our surroundings, like obeying traffic laws or standing in line at a store or a restaurant. We just kind of, in a way, conform to rules that aren't really there. Traffic laws are there. When we know how to act in a certain group or setting, it just seems to go more smoothly, though, right? Some of this is called non-conscious automatic mimicry, like laughing when someone else is laughing, even if it's not a great joke, or folding your arms when somebody else folds their arms because when you're speaking to them, you're engaged, so you mirror them. Even becoming quiet when others are starting to become quiet. Why do we do that? Because it seems like that is the right thing to do. What I'm getting to is that group behavior is actually contagious. In the early 1950s, psychologist Solomon Asch told a group of volunteers that they would participate in a simple test of visual perception. They were then seated at a table with 5 others, and they were shown this picture with a simple line and 3 lines that looked similar. They were asked which of these 3 lines matches the original line best. And of course, if you have good eyesight, it can be quite easy to notice that C is the correct answer. But something strange happened immediately after that. Most, if not all, the participants would then choose the wrong answer. Little did they know that the real participant here was actually in a group of actors. And so all the actors were actually intentionally, purposefully choosing the wrong answer. And they would then begin questioning their own eyes and if this is actually, am I seeing what I'm actually seeing or not? They would even choose the wrong answer. The participant didn't know that they were actors, but they were. The real participant began struggling, and they started either conforming to the group or setting their own, making a choice for themselves. In the end, though, most of the subjects, the real participants, still chose the right answer. They still would choose C. But, this is the weird thing, more than a third of them would still conform with the group, even though they knew the right answer. And this is a group of people that they didn't even know. This is a group of people that are doing a simple test that has no impact on their life whatsoever. You will find it hard to grow with a group that has a skewed view of truth, love, and grace. Enjoy yourself, sure. Have a variety of friends, but find others that you can emulate, that you can look up to. I want you guys, you may already have this in your life, but find people that are full of joy. Find someone that is generous. Find someone that has incredible patience, or someone that loves in a ridiculous way that when it seems impossible to love. Make time to get to know these people, take them to lunch, invite them over, work on a project together, find ways to be around them. Now, these people may be a part of your group already, your core group, but maybe it's a perspective change. Change how you're thinking when you go to that group. See their skills and ask them about them. My wife Alexis is an encourager, a gift that far exceeds my own. But over the years, I've emulated that gift and have grown in that area. Some others in my life are Sean, who is incredibly generous, ridiculously so, and in a way that seems incredibly risky or dangerous to me, but is strikingly Jesus-like. And another is my friend Damien, who is completely honest and transparent with the right and wrong in his life. I want to be more like that. I want to be more like these people in my life. Who are the people in your life that make you want to be a better person, that challenge you in this life that you're living? If you don't have that, you could start finding those people now. An easy way, if you don't have this already, would be to join a life group. You can find one here by looking online or filling out a communication card and finding out more information about that. Now, many of you already are a part of a group or have high quality people that you speak with regularly, but maybe you're getting comfortable. Maybe change it up, shake it up, and get to know them a little bit different. Take them out for coffee. Have them over. Don't just coast through this. Don't go through the motions. Ask them questions on how do they do it. There was a business entrepreneur, Jim Rohn. He once said, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." Think about that. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. You can even find out if that's true. Are the people you are around helping you to be a better person, or are they toxic and bringing you down? When you control your environment, you control your life. You grow in grace by surrounding yourself with wise Jesus followers. It comes down to this. Who do you want to be? Who do you want to be? And will you choose grace even in the difficult times like Jesus? Now, I have a few questions here for you to take with you, okay? So write them down if you like on your phone or something. But I would love for you to have something that you can take home with you and you can talk with at home. So these are the 3 questions. What is your one takeaway? Just one. You don't have to have a bunch, just one. What is one thing I can take away? 2, what is one change I want to make today for my future? And 3, what are some questions I can ask other people on grace? How can I share some ideas with other people or ask those questions of others? A lifestyle of grace begins with prayer, planning, and surrounding yourself with quality people. If you want to be like Jesus, grace has to be a part of it at every turn. I want you to go home and talk about this and come up with a plan for yourself. May the love of Jesus go with you. You are sent.